Today's interview is with Bill Ham. Bill's a multifamily real estate investor who has over 1,000 units and has been around and done a lot of cool stuff and interesting stuff. But ultimately, one of the best things he's done is creative financing when it comes to multifamily deals. He actually has a book out now called Creative Cash. So we dive into a lot of creative financing stuff and just really interesting. And he has a prediction about what's coming next for multifamily. So stick around for all of that because this was a really great interview. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Bill Ham. Hey Bill, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Barry. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm very excited to have you on the show. Bill's an awesome dude with a lot of experience and a lot of success. So I'm very excited to dive into today's conversation.
I feel like we should be yelling at each other.
I'm gonna meet you at the Coliseum at 7:30. Be there. Might make it tough for people to listen after a while. They might get tired of the shouting, but yeah. I appreciate that. Well, cool, man. Well, if you don't mind, can you just sort of introduce yourself and give people an idea about who you are and what you've been up to?
Yeah, again, Bill Ham. Been in real estate coming up on 16 years now. Started off, well, I was a pilot by trade, flying airplanes for a living, corporate pilot, and figured out that job sucked. And so I quit. I had bought a duplex, had saved up $10,000, and I closed my very first deal, which is a duplex, and it was cash flowing. If nothing broke, it was cash flowing about $300 a month. And I thought, well, I'm really smart. So I just quit the day job and went into real estate with 10 grand and $300 a month. Figured out real quick I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. Survived it anyway. Flipped houses for a while. Built a small portfolio of houses that I held, and then slowly got into multifamily. And when I got into multifamily, I just kind of stayed on that track. And I've been over 1,000 units. I've built a management company. I've had upwards of 16 employees. So I've been out here doing real estate for a long time. I teach, I work with a group and teach and coach a lot of students. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people being a pilot, right, is a dream job, right? Like, people.
Yeah.
I'm sure you tell people, "Hey, I'm a pilot," blah blah blah, and they think it's a cool job. It's a cool job to me, right? But what was it about it? Out of interest, I know this is not real estate related, but out of interest, what was it that you didn't necessarily like about it?
Well, it wasn't fulfilling enough for me mentally, but really the catch was the pilot is really important from takeoff to landing. And when airplanes on the ground, a pilot's pretty damn worthless, right? And so what I realized was that I was just a limo driver. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was just a glorified limo driver or a bus driver with wings here. And I spent hours and hours sitting around in airports waiting on people to show up and say, okay, home James. And it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't fulfilling enough. I was too hyper. I couldn't sit still that long, and just turned out I was a really bad employee. So I made a better entrepreneur than employee. So I did the best thing I could do for everybody involved and quit. But yeah, that's basically how I got there. Flying airplanes is a lot of fun, but like real estate, and I can relate this to real estate, there's a lot of the job you don't see. Hold on, in real estate too, there's a lot of the job you don't see. Everybody kind of thinks about, well, for example, wrestling. Everybody sees you, come off the top rope and the big screen and all that. Yeah, but they don't see all the other part of that job, the travel, the training, the extra, the hotels being away from it. They just see the big lights. There you go. And so people think real estate the same way. It's riding around the back of the limo and like closings and high fives. Yes, it is, but there's a whole lot of sitting in front of a computer, staring at spreadsheets and things that are not fun. So you got to pick your poison. That shows you're rather better off in real estate.
It's true, right? You see people closing like a big deal or whatever. You're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, but then how many deals did they analyze it? How many offers did they make? How many tours did they do? How many like all that stuff, right? How many investors did they talk? There's so much that goes to it outside of that Facebook post.
Yeah, real money is made on spreadsheets.
Right.
not in the transaction. You know, it's in the analysis. Real money is made on the analysis. It's sitting there in that dark office all alone, you know, blurry-eyed, staring at the spreadsheet, seeing something that someone else didn't see. That's at least commercial real estate, not as much in single family, but basically the same concept, right? It's finding a deal that someone else didn't find or didn't see. Same concept, and that's not always fun and sexy, but it pays. So that's kind of what you got to get. If you're going to get into the business, that's what you have to understand, is there's a boring side to it.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people fail.
Yeah. Well, touching on that, like the analysis side of stuff, right?
Yeah.
What, because I didn't really have a plan with this, with as most interviews, right? And I think, you know, that's what's fun to me, but because you get to talk about
Love
whatever comes up. Yeah. So the analysis side of it, let's dive into that, right? Seeing as
Sure.
you talked about it, and seeing as it's so important, right? What do you,
it's 85% of the business.
right. Yeah. So when people are analyzing a deal, what's some of the basics that they should know up front? Okay.
Never go in that you don't know the way out. Right? Never get into something that you don't understand what it is you're trying to do with it, what's going on, what you're doing with it. So for me, the first part of any decent analysis is the exit strategy. I really can't analyze the deal if I don't know what I'm trying to do with it. So is this something that I'm going to hold for a long time? Is this a fix and flip? You know, what am I doing with this thing? And then second, I would say, okay, now how long is it going to take me to do that? And so what I'm talking about now is market cycle. And so that's saying, okay, where is the market going to be when I exit? First, what's the exit strategy? Second, what's the timing? You know, when is that exit strategy going to hit? And third is the loan. What kind of loan am I getting? And is the debt that I'm getting going to allow me to get out of the exit at the right time? So you kind of want to tie all those three things together. You know, for example, if I got into a short-term loan, but I planned on a long-term hold, then I would be refinancing or forced out. You don't want to do that. Also, if I get into a big, let's say Fannie or Freddie loan, if we're talking, say, commercial real estate, big giant loan that then I want to sell a property in a year or two, huge prepayment penalties. So a lot of people don't know that. So you're getting the exit strategy and the debt wrong. And then the third one is the market cycle. Where are we at in the market? Where are we going to be at? So if you're saying long-term hold, is that 3 years or 5 years? If you're flipping a property, where's the market going to be at in, say, 6 months or 1 year? Yep. So those are the three things. And I actually have a term for them. I call them 3 pillars of real estate. 3 pillars are debt, exit, and market cycle. You know those 3 things, and you can pretty much analyze anything. I'll say, then there's other ways to analyze deals, but that's my 10,000 foot answer.
Right. And it's right. With everything, start with everything. Start with the end in mind, right? It's you know, it just helps everything.
If you know what you're going and what you're doing with it, you really can't properly analyze it.
Yeah, and with us, you know, like for example, the market cycle, right, where things are going. What considerations do you have to make with that?
Well, you have to study market cycle. It's quite predictable. Markets kind of rise and fall over a pretty sort of cosine wave pattern, and it's not whether market goes up or down. It's only a question of when does it go up and when does it go down. That's it. We know that they all do, and so if you watch real estate market cycles, they're about 10 years apart, 10 years, 10 years ish, top, bottom to bottom. Now they may not go way down. The '08 cycle was a way down cycle. I don't think in this cycle. I think we're headed into a down cycle as we speak. I don't think it's going anything like '08, but we are trending into a down cycle. One of the things that you can consider, and one of the ways that you can really tell when you're going into a down cycle, watch your lenders. Lenders control the market cycle. So as soon as lenders start tightening up, you're going to go into a down cycle. Start looking around. Look at the newspaper. Read the papers. Are they saying that, hey, we're lending more? No, they're tightening up. Fannie and Freddie are tightening up their criteria. Single family Freddie loans just got their criteria tightened up. Some community banks are at the moment being a lot more aggressive. So by the way, if anybody's listening, try and go to community bank. That's probably where you're going to get your best loans right now. They're being a little more aggressive. Yeah, but they'll also get too much real estate on their books. And as soon as they get, you know, a large balance sheet with real estate, they'll stop lending. That's when we're going to see, I think, some prices decline. So you always watch your debt. Just watch your debt. They set the cycle. So that's for predicting the future.
Wow, yeah, that's you heard it here first. But it makes sense, right? Because of that lending component. Without lending, right? If you can't get a loan on something, how can you buy something? And then it becomes a supply and demand. If there's not that demand for that supply, the supply is going to go up. And prices.
Sort of straw that's going to bring it down here will be, I'm predicting aged assets is going to be another area we're going to have to. That's the second part. So your C space, your affordable housing, that's just getting old. Your lenders are going to start making you put up a lot more escrow, repair money, and they're going to start lowering loan to value on these buildings that are just getting super aged because they know they're going to break down. And that's also going to pull back available funds for C space or stuff that's built in the 60s, 70s on average. So that area is going to get hard to borrow on. That's going to depress some prices in there. So, but at the same time, that creates opportunity, creative financing. That's when you come in, you start doing some lease options and some seller financing.
Yeah.
I hear there's a good book. The one I wrote, actually.
What's the name of that book?
Creative financing. Yeah. Anybody listening, go get it. It's on Amazon. It's called Creative Cash on Amazon. So yeah, go over there and get that. That's a prediction of everything that's coming and show you some tricks on how you can actually use lease options and seller financing to get deals. I know I didn't write the book. That's why I selflessly plugged that one in there.
But that focuses on apartments or single families?
Real estate in general.
Okay.
Yeah, real estate in general. Yeah. So my book is about getting deals done without using traditional financing. Using lease options and seller financing like that. And that's kind of why I brought that book out, is because I'm predicting that if you watch debt, they pull back into this market cycle, there's less debt. We're going to have some distressed assets because a lot of these things are starting to get old. And in there is going to be the perfect storm for lease options, seller financing, things like that. And that's where it's going to be a great opportunity for people that are looking to transition. So if you're sort of in single family, you're looking to transition into multifamily, hey, this is going to be a real good time for that. I would say within a year, 6 months to a year, for the next 2 or 3 years, it'll be a good market cycle for that.
Wow. Okay. Well, that brings me to my next point then: seller and creative financing, right? But so with that, not every deal is going to be a good fit for that, right? Not every deal that comes available, or anything that you can make an offer and doesn't fit that seller financing, creative financing role. What kind of deals are a good fit for that?
Yeah, ones that you can create value with your offer. So you have to look at the deal and you have to see, is there some way that your offer will create value for a seller? So basically you got to go find a seller with a problem. Find somebody who's got some kind of issue and then see if you can solve whatever that issue is with your creative offer. You'd be surprised how often someone is selling property that they don't really care. They don't need the money. So they don't care about the money, but they don't really need the money. They have some other problem and they don't know how to solve it, so they're just going to sell the property. Maybe they're a burned out landlord. One of my favorite. Somebody that just got more real estate than they meant to get into. They don't want to deal with management anymore. They're burned out. They're sick of it. Perhaps somebody that doesn't have enough cash to fix their property up. Maybe they've been cash flowed and that's fine, but now all of a sudden the roof's got to be fixed and some other things, and they need to get out. Those are going to be people that I think are going to be sensitive to it. Stuff like that. So you really just look for someone that has a problem and you try and create an offer that solves it.
And then how do you find? Do you go through brokers, or do you need to maybe go direct to seller to kind of get these kind of deals?
All the above. Yeah. So when you're looking for a creative financing deal, you don't look for a creative financing. That's the key. Never go looking for something you can do creative financing on, for a number of reasons. One, you'll look like you're broke. You'll look like you don't have any money. So never call up a realtor and say, hey, I'm looking for something I can get seller financing on. You're going to look like you have absolutely no money. So don't do that. What you want to do is just analyze things like you would normally. If the deal works and the numbers work and you can go get a loan and put the money down and buy the property and there's no problems, then do that. Don't use creative financing. If the numbers don't work, i.e. the loan to value, or not loan to value, the debt service ratio, if the income to debt number is bad, or say there's a lot of repairs and maintenance that haven't been done, things like that. That's when you come in and make those kind of offers.
Yeah. And then if you're doing that kind of offer with a broker, how do you reassure? Because the broker's concerns and the agent's concern a lot of times is that their commission, right? Because they're very commission driven, right? Rightly so, right? That's how they make their bread and butter. That's how they pay for the roof above their heads. But how do you reassure them, and how do you structure it so that they get that commission?
Yeah, it depends is the answer. Depends on exactly what kind of deal you're doing. The short answer is you always want to consider their commission of most importance. So that's step one. You hit the big one there with working with realtors. So you probably are going to need to kind of assure them quickly that they're going to get paid. First thing you're thinking is, hey, I'm not getting paid here. No, hold on, we're going to get paid. All right, if you're talking about a lease option, we could go way off in a lot of detailed conversation. If you're saying like an option, I would actually have them written into the document. So I would have their commission written into whatever agreement I have with the seller. So if it's seller financing, if it's a match lease option, whatever the case, either I'm going to try and get the seller to give that realtor some of my down payment, maybe just buy them off, and so they take that money, they're gone. If that doesn't work, then we want to try and get commission finance along with the deal. Anything goes. So I have had realtors take equity in deals as partners for their commission. I have had realtors take IOUs, i.e. finance their commission at an interest rate. Let's see. I've paid realtors on credit cards.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you name it, I've got others. I mean, go cut their grass on Saturday. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's always something figured out. But that's what you got to do. You got to guarantee them the money, and then you got to figure a way to get it into the deal. Lots of ways to do it.
That's the great thing about real estate, right? That the only limitation you have is the limitation you have in your mind in terms of what you can achieve, right? And I like the one where you finance the commission, right? You gave a percentage or whatever on that. But if it makes sense, right? And it's not like you go into. I'm sure you have all these tools on your tool belt, right? And that's what it is, right? And when one of these things comes up, you use that tool. It's not like you're going, hey, on this deal, I'm going to do this. Right, it's got to fit whatever tool you have.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just open this thing up and see what's inside, and we'll fix whatever's there. You don't know. Just open it up and see. Let's see. Every deal's different. You can't say, oh, it's exactly like this. You got to. Each case is different. It's fun. I love it. I think it's great. But you always got to keep in mind that a good deal is probably 90% seller, 10% real estate. To just keep that in mind and serve the seller and try and solve seller problems and create value by helping and solving problems for sellers. That's how you get creative financing. And that's how you can break into the business too. When I got started, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any experience. I had 10 grand. I quit the job. And so I had to learn these techniques to get out there because I had no money. I had no experience. Banks weren't doing business with me. And so if that fits you in any kind of description, hey, number one, get my book. Number two, use these creative financing tools.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can you give us maybe an example of one deal that you use creative financing just so that people
can
see it? Yeah.
My first 402 units, yeah, I did without ever going to the bank. Okay. Every deal I did was with some form of creative financing. Now I got into these deals and then was able to refinance into a bank. But the initial purchase for my first portfolio had nothing to do with banks. So it was either seller financing or I would pool together like hard money, debts, my credit cards that said, you name it, all kind of crazy stuff. But my very first deal, the duplex that I did was actually a friend of mine gave me seller financing for 90 days and that allowed me to go refinance to the bank and basically put very, very little money down. I won't say no money, but very little. I did a 108 unit master lease option once. I've given lease options. I had some abandoned. I didn't tell this. I've probably abandoned more real estate than most people have bought. I've abandoned 12 or the 14 units now. I have a whole neighborhood full of real estate. I've just screwed up. Bad purchases, bad houses. Neighborhood went to hell. Anyway, long story. What I did was I gathered up a lot of that real estate and actually gave a lease option to a church and then let them use that real estate, let them go and fix it up. And I didn't care because I was making the payment each month on it. I wasn't going to go into foreclosure because it was literally hundreds of dollars a month. It wasn't worth just not making the payment. But anyway, I found a way to sort of donate that to the church. Let them come in and they set up a battered women's shelter out of a few of the houses under a master lease and then like beer write-off. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do. It's just gotta be creative, like that.
Yeah. What for people that might not know what a master lease is? What is a master lease and how does it work?
Master lease option is it's two contracts. I'll try and explain it simply. It's two contracts that collectively together allow me to rent a property with the right to buy it someday in the future. For example, all right, if you have a property and you say, all right, Bill, I have a property and I'll sell you the property for $1 million. And I said, okay, I look at it and I say, well, it's really only worth $500,000 or something like that right now. So what I want you to do, Barry, is to rent me the property because you're a bad landlord and you just weren't good at operations and I'm better. I'm going to rent your property. I'm going to come in and do the work, fix it up, and get it up to speed without buying it. Now, once it's up to speed and it's running, it's now going to be worth $2 million. But I still have the right to buy it from you at $1 million because we agreed on that price day one. I push the value through my operations. I push the value up and then exercise my option to purchase. And so that's the master lease. It's sort of the side that allows us to rent the property, i.e. control the cash flow, the operations, that sort of thing. And then the option to purchase. You and I are going to set a price today and an amount of time that I'm going to have in which to buy that property from you for the $1 million we agreed on. So maybe we say 3 years. And we say, okay, Bill, you have 3 years to buy the property for $1 million. I'm renting the property, the right to buy it in the future, and hopefully I'm going to bring the value above whatever our option price is. There's a lot more detail to it, as in, obviously I'm going to have to make a payment each month, who pays what. I'm going to have to give you some option money, a deposit, which would be a forfeit if I didn't actually exercise my option to purchase, things like that. That's roughly what a master lease option is.
Yeah, and then what kind of deals does a master lease suit? Is it something more distressed? I'm guessing. Anything? There's not a particular.
Yeah. It's just a lease option if it's a single family.
Right.
We just use your master if you're using multiple units. So I've done it from houses to duplexes to, like I said, the largest one I ever did was 108 units.
Yeah, sorry. What I meant was rather not what was. Does it suit better a distressed deal? I'm guessing rather than something that is turnkey.
It suits a seller that is distressed.
Okay.
Why is the seller distressed? Well, in a lot of cases, yes, it's because their real estate is distressed, but not always. The 108 unit apartment complex that I did, the larger one, was not physically distressed in the sense that you might think distressed. It was actually distressed because the management was bad. The management had mismanaged that property and they had let it get into debt, not paying bills and things like that. But physically, it was a fine piece of real estate. It was just this owner had hired the wrong company. The company had basically run to the operations into the ground. The seller didn't know what to do but sell it. And nobody could buy it because this was back in 2012, 2013. So we were still coming out of a 08 recession in Middle Georgia. It was not a great market to begin with. And so the seller just really couldn't get a buyer. Nobody could get that. So that's how I got the deal. So again, you don't know how things might be distressed. So I would say, yes, it fits distressed real estate, but it's really about a distressed seller.
Okay. And then, and what did that deal, because you mentioned that deal and it sounds really interesting. Talk us through that deal maybe a little bit in terms of how you set it up, what the lease option was for, what the master lease purchase price was for, what, how you guys, how much did you have to put down, all that good stuff. If you can run some other deal. Yeah. Because it's interesting, right? Because master lease sounds like an awesome option, right? To most people.
It was interesting. Yeah. So it was a long story, but it was 108 units total. And what I did was, the interesting story was the management company. How this happened was the management company, one of the largest in the city. So don't think this is some kind of fly-by-night management company. It was not. Would do like any good management company would do. They would pay themselves. They'd collect all the rent, pay themselves first, and then pay the bills. And when they ran out of rent, they just took all the extra invoices and stuck them in a drawer. Start over the next month, collect the rent, pay themselves first, run out of money, stick the invoices in a drawer. And they did this several months, for a while, until essentially the operation started breaking down. And they couldn't get anybody to come back out and work on the property. Carpet and painter and all this kind of people wouldn't show up and work anymore. So the management company called up the seller and said, "Hey, we just need you to come up here and write a check for $50,000. We've run the operations negative to the tune of $50,000." Wow. So of course, the seller, being upset as he was, fast forward, I saw the situation, negotiated the master lease option, like I already explained how that works. It was a purchase price of $5 million for that one, and I put down 25,000 in the option, meaning I gave the seller $25,000 for the right to take over the property with the option to buy it and all that as a deposit. If I forfeit on the deal, I give up 25 grand. But if I close the deal, then it goes towards purchase price. Right? So anyway, took it over, operated it, cash flowed back all of the $25,000. So I had no exposure. I had a 3-year agreement. And at the end of the 3 years, I handed them the keys and walked and did not buy the property. So technically forfeited the 25,000, but I had cash flowed something like 50 or 60,000. So I don't care. But yeah, did just decided not to buy the property. It really turned out not to be what I thought it was. No, that's a lie. I never really planned on buying it. That's probably the truth I should tell. I never really actually planned on buying it. I was just practicing. I just needed to learn some business. I needed more management experience. I needed more real estate in the market. Got to have a bike to learn how to ride a bike. So I took a lease option on the deal just to do some business. I never really planned on closing it. And I calculated I would get my money out of it. So just practice.
And that's great as well.
The seller sold it though. So don't think I'm a bad person.
Right.
Got full price out of it. And the seller was made whole and everybody's happy.
And plus it was probably a better property after you took over than
It was. It had some structural water leak issues. It was nobody's fault. It was just an older building that had water, coming in. It was very expensive to fix it. I just didn't feel like doing it. But the seller was able to sell the property, and he got what he wanted for it, and I got what I wanted, which was practice, a resume, experience. Which the takeaway here is don't always chase dollars and cents. There's a lot more out there than money, and a lot of times you just need practice. I'm not suggesting you do a bad deal or you do a deal with no intention of making money. I make money, but at the same time, remember resume and experience are invaluable.
Yeah, and the great thing about that deal as well is you're able to control 108 unit for 25,000, right? Correct. Which is incredible. Like that, you're in control of that building, a massive building, a $5 million building for 25,000. You know,
exactly. That's what happened. So continuing the story, well, in that case, so the $50,000 I had to inherit. So that was part of the thing. Is the seller said, okay, fine, this $50,000 I'm bad doing before a problem. Well, now that I took over the 108 units. That brought me up to multiple hundred units in that city. And so what I did with most of the vendors is I sat down and I said, okay, look, our company owes you X amount of dollars, $5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it was. And I said, you can have one of two things. You can have cash or the portfolio. I said, I can write you a check. And I said, and then you will not work on my portfolio. I said, or I can give you an exclusive agreement to work on my portfolio and you forgive the debt. 9 out of 10 took the future of business. One person took a check, fine, wrote them off. But I was able to evaporate almost, I'd say, 40 out of the $50,000 just through negotiation.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
And then when you said as well that you had that experience and you had that track record, even though you didn't own it, when you spoke to lenders, when you spoke to brokers, when you spoke to potential investors, they still counted that as experience, right? Because even though you didn't own it on the title, it was yours, right? Because you ran it for 3 years, right?
Oh yeah. I think lenders think so. They're going to say, wow, you got to be good at telling stories.
It helps, right?
Yeah. No, it does.
Yeah. And what is your unit count now? You said you're at around 1,000 doors right now?
Yeah, not the moment I've been selling off. The peak was a little over.
Okay. And then I'm guessing that's all been done through syndication?
A lot of it was, yes.
Okay. And then are you a one-man show or do you have a team around you?
No, I have a team. I'm part of a Broadwell Property Group. I've been on my own for a long time, but then I met a great guy named Tony Morgan. He was Broadwell Property Group, so he invited me to join him. And I'm now the Chief Operating Officer of Broadwell Property Group. You can check us out at broadwellpropertygroup.com. Anybody's looking to do business with us, there's a little investor section. Click on that. We'll be in touch. But yeah.
Very cool. But initially, were you wearing all the hats initially? You were by yourself to start off with. Yeah. Was that challenging? Because obviously there's a lot that goes into syndication, right? Raising the money, finding the deal, analyzing the deal, doing the due diligence, asset management. There's a lot of pieces that goes into the puzzle, right?
Most of the employees, largely the responsibility was very low. That's the hard part. That's the heavy millions of dollars, people's dollars at stake, or maybe the deal's not going well, or this happened, or that's happening, and things like that. Yeah, so it's there's more to it than just money. It's the stress. That's the heavy lift. That's the hard part of the business, I think, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then when starting out, when you were raising money starting out, did you have any challenges, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, everybody not having a big enough network. If you have a huge network, it's easier to raise money. But if you're not as well known, that's difficult. It's like people always say, well, they people will do business with people they know, like, and trust. Yeah, but they got to know you to like and trust you.
Yeah.
Focus on that know part. Well, right? That was the thing. I just didn't know that many people, and so yeah, that makes raising money hard.
But early on, how did you do that? Was it friends and family? Was it something?
Yes, friends and family was the start. Absolutely. My father helped co-sign some of my first loans. He never gave me cash, but he did sign a few things. Yeah, and then in networking, friends, going out to events, seminars. I probably have raised 95% of the money I've ever raised from networking at real estate groups, seminars, things like we do, just different rooms. Where you and I met in another person's Zoom room that brought us together, and here we are. So it's just networking. It's just constant networking.
Yeah, yeah. Man, very cool, man. We were talking beforehand, and I could talk to you forever about 10 million different things. But
I'll come back on for another show.
Oh yeah, man. You're welcome anytime, man. You're a very easy guy to talk to, and obviously very knowledgeable.
Thank you.
But before we go, is there anything like you'd like to share with people, or anything like some information or some knowledge or something?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a recap. I said, wrote a book on creative financing.
Yeah.
It's about how to do all the things that I've talked about here, how to solve problems in real estate and be rewarded with deals without necessarily using traditional financing like lenders and banks. It's called Creative Cash. It's on Amazon. It's by Bill Ham, H-A-M. You can also check out our website, creativeapartmentdeals.com. There's a masterclass on there if you want a lot more of this education. And if you're looking to invest, that's easier website is gobroadwell.com. Just go to gobroadwell.com and look for the investor button. We'll be in touch with you. But yeah, other than that, Barry, I really appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's one last part. Don't go quite yet. There's a part where I ask 4 questions that wrestling-related real estate questions. So you were trying to get out the first question, where that everyone gets stuck on, which is what would your wrestling name be?
What am I wrestling? Captain Bill. That was my very first email. So I'll go Captain Bill. CAPNBILL.
Okay, Captain Bill. Is it?
It's kind of like Captain Albano throwback.
Yeah. Well, you're a bit of a wrestling fan, yeah.
Captain Bill instead.
Okay. Yeah, Captain Albano was awesome. Yeah, he was awesome. So every wrestler has a special move. What is your special move in real estate, you think?
The leg lock. I always like that.
The figure 4, yeah, the Ric Flair. Yeah.
I was like Junkyard Dog, Road Warrior. I grew up on Andre the Giant. Oh man, I was WWF forever as a kid.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I was. The top rope was like the bed. I was always flying off, smashing. Yeah. Oh yeah. What would be my special move? Probably creative negotiation. That's probably what I would say. Yeah, creative negotiation. That would be my super move.
Okay. Awesome. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken?
Oh yeah, there's lots of those. Probably the biggest one was I lost $150,000 one afternoon in trying to syndicate a deal, putting up that as earnest money is what happened, thinking that I had a better network than I did, and really just couldn't raise the capital and wound up losing the deal, and lost $150,000. And I thought, man, I'm going to be the laughing stock of real estate. I'm in Atlanta, so I thought, I'm going to be fully blacklisted in Atlanta. My career's over, all this kind of stuff. Not true. Look, money's green and memories are short. Don't worry about it.
But did you get close at all? Because obviously, there's more and more people putting money hard, right? Because it's just getting more and more.
Yeah, this is about 5 years ago.
Okay, because more and more people, are putting money hard these days because it's so competitive. That's what you say. If you're in a hot market, you essentially have to put that money. But you always hear people say as well, I put money hard and then I just had to figure it out, right? Well, unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for you. Was it just a case of network? Was it a case of experience? Was it a case, what apart from not putting that money hard down, was there something else you do different?
I hear you. Yeah, it was twofold. One, I call it it's an aviation term that we used to listen. It means like when you're just in a hurry to get somewhere and you're willing to take unnecessary risks to get there. Like you see the red on the radar screen and you're like, oh, don't worry about that. It's a storm. Be careful. And so we call that at aviation get-there-itis. And I think I kind of got get-there-itis. I had not really been paying attention, made a little money, screwed off, kind of got lazy for a little while, and then woke up one day and went, oh, I need to do a deal. I haven't done any deals lately. And now I'm kind of desperate and I'm rushing out and I'm looking for a deal. And I think I kind of got too aggressive, got a little over the tip of my skis, as they say, and this deal really wasn't as good as I thought it was. And that was the first mistake. Second mistake was, I didn't have the network that I thought I did. And so the lesson there was, a stack of business cards, a network does not equal, right? So I had this pile of business cards thinking, I'm a great networking. I got these business cards. So I started reaching out to these people and they're like, you're who again? We met where? And I'm going, okay, right. I never followed up with these people. I never stayed in touch. And now here I am calling up asking for money. I'm like, of course they're not doing this. That was probably my biggest mistake, and that led to the ultimate failure. So be careful. The old adage, you just find a good deal and the money will show up. No, it won't either. If you know people, it'll show up. But you don't get cocky about that network. Don't think a pile of business cards means you know the people. That's $150,000 lesson.
That's a painful lesson, right?
Yeah.
Right. So was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it and how did you overcome it? But yeah, it doesn't seem like that's your thing though. I don't think. Like obviously, you quit your job, you just put 150 grand down.
Right. So if the question was like, when did I come off the top rope and like complete, and the guy rolled out of the way, and I'm the one like slams into the mat and pulls back over. When did that happen? Oh, like tons. When was I on the top rope and I was too scared to jump? I had to think about that. Not very often, really.
What do you think that is, though? Because that's even more interesting. I think that you don't.
I don't know.
No, I don't. No, I don't agree with that. No, there must be something. That.
Yeah. Life's not typically as difficult as you might think, and it doesn't hurt quite as much as most people think. And I think people are just a little too afraid of the world and not willing to get up their skin and go try. And I was just always someone who's willing to just get out and try. It's just like, you can tell me the stove's hot, but I'm probably going to go over there and touch it and then come back and go, hey, you're right. That stove is hot. Just that kind of personality. So I just do those kinds of things, but not to be uncautious. I'm actually very cautious now that I'm older.
Right.
But so I don't know, to answer you directly, jumping off the top rope, there have been times when I probably should have been buying more real estate, paying attention to the market cycle. For example, after I lost that $150,000, I wasn't in a good mental place for a while. And so that kept, but what I didn't realize, market cycle, was that we were actually going into a really good buying cycle. And I should have ignored the loss and bought everything, even in the midst of that failure, but I let the failure get to me. So I would say that would probably be, again, my worst failure and my top of the rope moment, when I should have come off the top rope into that great buying market. But I took the failure too seriously and then still kind of sat out for a while. So that cost me even more money, eventually. But we're our own worst enemy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But you're successful now, right? Things aren't too bad right now. Yeah, and it all leads there, right? All the path, the ups and the downs leads to where you are today, and it's all part of the journey.
You just gotta keep jumping off the top rope. See, that's the key. It's not whether you're just gonna keep jumping off.
Yeah, don't stop. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, man, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate your time. This was such a fun conversation.
Good stuff. Yeah. I'll be back sometime.
Absolutely, man. You're welcome anytime. But before we go, you've done already, but please plug all your stuff once again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bill Ham. If you're looking for me on the internet, I do have a bunch of stuff out there. You can just look up Bill Ham Real Estate or Bill Ham Creative Cash. I'll pull up the stuff. That's the name of our book, Creative Cash, on Amazon. Again, you can find me at creativeapartmentdeals.com or at gobroadwell.com. Both of those. So yeah, got any questions, comments, likes, dislikes? Well, skip the dislikes. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking real estate. Yeah, I'll answer any questions you got.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, man. Have an awesome rest of your day there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.